just reading a few pages from a fascinating book. It is literally filled with countless pieces of wisdom. One in particular deserves quoting. It reads, "Vengeance is mine." Now that's a powerful quote. And from what book am I reading? The Bible. That's right, the Bible. Now let me ask you a personal question. At some time in your life, has someone ever made you so angry, so upset, that you considered some form of retribution, some form of revenge? Of course you have. You wouldn't be human unless you did. Revenge is a natural emotion. The only problem is that we are all raised to consider revenge as being juvenile, immature. Society does not condone such lewd displays of conduct, at least not openly. And that is why we are here. Hi, I'm Linda Blair, welcoming you to How to Get Revenge. During this program, you are going to become quite literally an expert in the field of revenge. Now, when I talk about revenge, I'm not talking about bodily injury to anybody. I mean, that is definitely not our purpose here. Our aim is to simply inform you of the options you have to make that person experience the same humiliation, the same mental anguish that they inflicted on you.
You are going to learn dozens of tricks of the trade from some of the top experts in the field, including private investigators, former police officers, and other virtuosos of vindication.
You will also discover invaluable techniques of retribution, some simple, some more elaborate, but all designed to obtain the goals you desire.
And you will also see and hear fascinating stories from people just like you who were at one time victimized, yet came back to achieve the ultimate revenge.
Let's face it, revenge can be sweet, especially when it's against someone who really deserves it. And I'm sure we all know a few of those, right? Former friends, lovers, business associates, family members. The list is virtually limitless. And you know what? We all practice revenge on a daily basis, and we don't even realize it. Example.
Have you ever tried to change lanes on the freeway, but the idiot in the other lane won't let you?
Yeah, you!
Woo!
Come on! Yeah, you!
So what do you do to get even? Well, when he tries to merge into your lane, you block him out. Now you've had your revenge.
Ever since childhood, we've been practicing some form of revenge. Remember as a kid, ordering a pizza by telephone and having it delivered to another kid's house that you disliked? Sound familiar? Or maybe you remember this classic bit of adolescent revenge.
The idea was to fill a paper bag with fresh animal droppings, the fresher, the better, then place it on the victim's doorstep. Once done, you'd light the bag on fire, knock on the victim's front door, then run to his backyard. Then when the victim arrived, usually the neighborhood grouch, he'd have no choice but to put out the fire. Meanwhile, you'd run to the victim's back door and begin pounding on it. This would cause the startled victim to run back through his home, soiling his fine shag carpeting with animal droppings, while you've made your clean exit.
Fasten your seatbelts. For now, it's time for us to explore the more serious forms of revenge. We've assembled several of the top professionals in the field of revenge to guide us through this endeavor. First off, we're going to meet private investigator Mark Lewis.
Mr. Lewis has aided hundreds of victims in getting even and is considered a master in automobile retribution. Next up is investigator Kyle Pappenfuss, who will give us pointers on how to cause havoc with a Mark's home. We'll also hear from a presently active police detective who we'll refer to as JM. He will enlighten us with his vast knowledge of seeking revenge by mail. And then there's Officer PF, another presently active police officer who will show us the many ways your telephone can cause tremendous damage to your enemy.
But first, let's begin with private investigator Quinn Vickers. Mr. Vickers specializes in getting even with former friends and lovers. Mr. Vickers, could you give us an example of what could be done to a former friend or lover?
A few examples, huh? It first came to me.
What did you have him immediately do?
He wants to collect no Social Security benefits.
Hit him in the pocketbook, eh?
Better yet, hit him while he's down. After all, my client wasn't the heavy here. He was just trying to even up the score.
Ouch. I'd sure hate to be him.
Yeah, so would I. I guess you could say my client finally came out on top.
Boy, I'd have to agree. Imagine that, breaking up a marriage to the U.S. mail. Amazing. But what's even more amazing is the many other ways that you can use the post office in a vengeful manner. And to give us a few examples is Detective J.M. Detective, could you give us some examples of revenge by mail?
Those lists?
I'd like to play a little game with you, if that's all right. I'll give you a situation, and then I'd like you to respond with the method of mail revenge that you would recommend.
Okay, shoot.
Let's say the Mark is a family man. You know, a wife, 2 kids, a dog. What can you do to disrupt the entire family as opposed to just the Mark?
Favorites.
I'm confused. How can sending a box of chocolates and a nice note to the Mark's wife get him in trouble?
Put laxatives in with the candy?
I guess you did. Well, that ought to flesh out the situation. Okay. How about if your Mark is a businessman?
His wife or his girlfriend?
Fascinating. Well, how about if you have a bone to pick with your neighbor?
Yeah.
Not that I want to know, but how can you ruin someone's marriage or love relationship?
Here's what I learned years ago.
What else can you send in the mail that will irritate your victim?
Boston in the summertime.
Well, Detective, thank you very much for your suggestions.
Now, you're welcome. Oh, by the way, when do I get paid for this?
Oh, don't worry. The check's in the mail. Now let's rejoin investigator Quinn Vickers, who has a visitor with an interesting story that many of us can relate to.
As I was leaving, I noticed the man's license plate number and made a mental note of it. I was so humiliated. This kind of thing happened to me many times in the past, and I wanted to get even with that man. Of course I don't go causing trouble for other people, but at least I know I have the confidence in myself to know I can get even with anyone.
Confidence, a quality we all desire, yet surprisingly few of us possess. However, most of us do possess one of these, a telephone. And it so happens that this is the revenge seeker's greatest ally. And here to enlighten us on this subject is Officer P.F., whose looks we have electronically altered to protect his identity.
I'm going to be demonstrating.
Number 1, call plenty of salesmen for an in-home sales pitch or demonstration. Number 2, start or cancel services to Mark's home, such as the gardener, pool man, cable TV service, etc. Number 3, order food from restaurants that deliver and send to Mark's home. Number 4, if you know any of your Mark's reservations in advance, call to cancel them. And number 5, call charitable organizations and donate goods in the Mark's name. This will cause much embarrassment when they arrive at the Mark's home.
Interesting thoughts, to say the least. Now let's rejoin investigator Quinn Vickers, who is joined by a young lady with a fascinating story.
Wherever there's love and romance.
College. And on Monday, well, whoa. Needless to say, the athletic department...
Well, stories like that certainly make my day, as do the talents of our next guest. His name is Mark Lewis. His occupation, private detective. His specialty, car revenge.
Now, happy motoring.
Aren't you glad he's not your mechanic? Whew. Now, let's check back with investigator Quinn Vickers, who has a few more tantalizing ideas to tease your vengeful mind.
Here's a few miscellaneous. Now, if your Mark is a member of the minority, you might turn him over to the Immigration Service. This is going to cause him hours and hours of endless paperwork trying to prove he's a citizen of this country.
This guy really deserved it. I enjoyed it.
You know, a newspaper is a great source for revenge. Be inventive. Check it out. You're going to come up with dozens of ideas of your own.
You know, Mr. Vickers is right. You don't have to be an expert to create some wonderful revenge techniques. We've been receiving dozens of letters from people just like you, detailing some delicious bits of revenge.
A woman from Fort Worth, Texas writes in telling us how she got even with a former friend who owned a popular vending machine. She stuffed cotton way up into the change return slot. This had a twofold effect. One, it upset her former friend's customers because the machine wouldn't return their change. And two, when the woman returned a few days later and pulled out the cotton, she hit the jackpot. Keep those cards and letters coming in, folks.
Question. Name the location where the average person feels most secure, most comfortable. Answer. Their home. Naturally. After all, a person's home is their castle, right? The only problem is that none of us have a moat to protect us.
Meet private investigator Kyle Pappenfuss. He's about to take us on a tour of what one can do to a Mark's home.
All right, first things first, the mailbox. Okay, we're at the front door. If you're really looking for a way to tick off your newfound friend, how about the doorknob, the keyhole? Some nice epoxy glue right in there. This is going to cost them not only aggravation, but money, too. And another nice thing about the front door, most front doors have a mail slot. And you know where mail slots go? The living room. That's right. You turn it on, you split the scene, Captain Happy comes home, and he can paddle his way to the telephone. Just remember, trashing your enemies can be a lot of fun.
Thanks, Kyle. And now, to wrap things up, let's pay one last visit to our experts as they tell us their favorite act of revenge.
Oh, shh. Don't tell my wife. Look.
So there you have it. I truly hope that you have enjoyed this edition of How to Get Revenge. It has been our pleasure to inform you of the options you have if and when you should find them necessary. It is also our hope that you will never actually have to use any of these methods. Excuse me. Hello?
Yeah, is this Linda Blair?
Yes?
Yeah, Linda, my name is Rick. Listen, I was driving down the street past your house a few minutes ago, and I saw some smoke coming from your house.
Oh my gosh! Oh, well, thank you for calling. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I have to go. I hope you had fun. Bye!